Again. Hi. Okay, so kind of the long story short, needless to say, um, is that I wanted to explain a little bit of everything that happened and why I had been so very quiet. Because I'm sure some of you on YouTube are like, why was she quiet for like months? Well, 3 years ago, it's close to 3 years. Um, I lost a grandmother. I was really close with her. Um, she was kind of she was that one person that when I was writing, I would go to because I could talk to her and you know she was a real support for the writing. I mean everybody supported it, but some more than others. And then some were a little over on it and was like, do it, but it's not what I want to do for the rest of my life is to write stories. Definitely not. Um, Not going to say who. Uh, but she was supportive in a way that was good for me, because I'm a very creative person and it was my way of being creative, but in my own terms. Um, I struggle all the time with this, but I have dyslexia, and I know that some people are like, what is that? It's a learning disorder that's just look it up on Google and it will explain it. I don't have it as bad as some people do, but I definitely had it bad. Um, so for me, the writing has always been a struggle. Um, it gets me the worst with punctuation and grammar, in all honesty. Um, Spelling I'm better at than I used to be. Um, but not into that. So when I lost her, I continued and I will continue doing it because I love it. But this year has been extremely hard. January, it started in December, but in January, my grandfather and mom both came down with COVID. My grandfather was a lot worse. Um, he was still able to be at home, thank God. But it was it was close. Um, so and the thing was is he had more than just COVID. It was a lot more than just one thing. Where my mom, it was just the COVID part, and I think it and like a minor cold or something. Um, but nothing too serious, and she was fine and way sooner than my grandfather. I was doing better too. But in April is my birthday. That's my birth month. Well, April 28th, my other grandmother and grandfather and brother, one of the brothers, not the little brother, the other brother. I know what you're thinking. What? I have two brothers, and one's older than the other one. The little brother, he's about 10, but he acts about his 5, but we're not going into that. Um, the other one's like 16 or 15 going on 16 in about 2 weeks. So, but anyways, so the 16-year-old brother was going to go with my grandmother to an eye appointment. No big deal, right? My grandmother ended up having a stroke while they were there. Right there in the doctor's office. It was, luckily, I wasn't there, so I didn't freak out or anything. But we ended up finding out about it like that. But she lived through that for about 2 months. Then during the second month, they wanted to try and get her home. So they started home hospice. Well, no, not home hospice, but they wanted to get her home and everything. And she was on hospice, so I guess you can say in technical terms it was home hospice, but in a special case since we were all there, and so they let it go because they knew she would be taken care of. But she had finally gotten home, and we were all so happy to have her home. And she ended up I don't remember what day, but it was around the 13th, I think. Yeah, I think it was around the 13th, because it was 10 days before her and my mom's birthday. Well, anyways, the night before, she started getting shakes. Bad. Wasn't looking good. Well, the next day, long story short, she ended up passing away that afternoon. The next morning, but you know what I mean. It was in the afternoon, but the next day, after she started shaking badly, she died. And ever since then, things have just been different, and it's really affected all of us, even me. For me, since my other grandmother died, I had started becoming close with her. Closer. Well, anyways, she died. We've been doing a little better, and then recently, there was, as everyone knows, California, it always ends up having fires every year all over the state. Well, there was one that was literally just over the mountain. We live on a mountain. So it was on the other side of the mountain. And it was coming so close. Well, anyways, we ended up having to evacuate because it was just like in the town over. So we ended up going to Eureka, I believe is the name of the town. If I screw up the spelling, I'm sorry. On how to pronounce it and stuff. Well, anyways, we went to visit family there. Some family there. So we stayed there for about a week. And then we came back. So that's why for a couple of videos it looks like I'm outside and very pretty, I'm sure, but it looked kind of gloomy. That's because it was during that time when we were staying with family, and it was great. We had fun. We had a good time. I got to see hummingbirds, which they're actually one of my favorite type of birds, so it's like, yay. I got to see something I like. And we don't really see them here. Um, so it's not that it's too cold for them. I don't know why we don't see them here, but we don't as much. I have literally never seen one, but my brother has said that he's seen one twice, two different times. So whatever. Um, so that's everything that has happened in the last year. Um, and we've had other small things. It's like, um, we've had fights in the family. It's not really fights. It's more disagreements, and we're doing better. Still gonna be apart for about a month, I think, hopefully. And then hopefully that by the time Christmas rolls around, things will have calmed down again, hopefully. And maybe we will have a good year. I would love for that to happen. I think everybody needs that. Needs that. Sorry. Anyways, so to talk about a happier subject before I start crying more, um, my brother will jinx me over it later. Anyways, not really jinx me, but he's funny, the 17-year-old, because it's like, we're getting, eating dinner and stuff, and then all of a sudden we'll be watching something, and something will happen, and then I'll start crying, and then he's like, "You're crying again?" And so now it's funny because he has an official cry count for me. Because I've been doing it so much the last week or so. It's like every day, it's little tiny spurts all day where it's like I will start crying, and it's just like, oh boy. So, anyways, so now I'm going to explain a little bit about into the future. I say the future, it's the near future. Um, I know that some of you know this, but I write on Wattpad. I believe it's how it's pronounced. I'll give you the link and stuff down below when I get time. But it's a platform for writers. Love it. All on there, all time. It's my main writing thing. That, and I do post on fan fiction, but I post on fan fiction less than I do Wattpad. So I'm sorry if you keep seeing pop-ups. Sorry, it's on uh groups on uh shoot, I forgot. Anyways, so so to The Sims. As everyone knows, I'm looking into getting Sims 4. That is still a go. That is the plan. I'm gonna get Sims 4. My first gameplay is very complicated as I'm a big Disney fan. Disney has been a part of my life since I was itty bitty. Um, One of my favorite films, I say one of because I like multiple movies, but it ranks up at the very top. Um, still, still ranks up at the top. Is The Lion King. Um, I'm sure some of you know what it is. Those who don't know, I'm sorry you've been living under a rock because it's a well-known movie. I mean, it's like it's it's huge, and the franchise has got like 3 or 4 movies. Actually, it's got 3 movies, but realistically, it's got 4 movies. we have number 1. We have 1.5, which is just kind of a small movie in the middle. It's an okay movie. It's not my favorite, but out of the franchise. But it has its moments where I start cracking up and I find it funny. And then you have number 2. Number 2 is very fun. I have to say I have more respect for it now than I did when I was younger. When I was younger, Lion King 1 still ranked the highest, and number 2 came in kind of like second or third, but and so now I think it's number 2 because I have more respect for it. I understand it better. It's not as bad as I because the thing was is the story is on, so the main characters is Simba and Nala, as fans I'm sure do know. Well, they have realistically 2 cubs, but at the time I only knew about 1. So when number 2 hit, it just made their daughter, Kiara, seem like just this like pampered princess, and I was like, oh god, and I swore she was an only child, so it was just like the overprotective parent dealing with a teenage daughter and only child. So I didn't really care for it at the time. But later, we find out that they actually have a son. His name is Khan, and I'll explain kind of all of the characters in a separate video, and then I'm not going to tell you everything that I'm going to do, because obviously that'll take away some of the fun. But it'll still be fun, as I'm going to explain kind of the characters, but I'm only going to explain the newer characters. The older characters will not be explained in this other video, as they're well known and that's going to be part of the fun. But anyways, so we find out about their son. He's interesting. He's more mild. He's very similar to Nala than Simba, where Kiara, their daughter, is definitely more like Simba. So it's 2 siblings, but one's more like the mother, one more's like the father. But the thing is that Kiara looks like Nala, but has Simba's personality, where Kion, her brother, he looks like Simba and Mufasa, but has a more mild personality like Nala. So it was very opposite, but kind of cool. Well, anyways, so I'm going to be turning all of this into Sims. So, first movie is going to be turned into Sims, well, kind of, sort of, in a small way, but it'll be done. And then we go to it's going to be like a 4-generation gameplay, starting with Mufasa, and Sarabi, and Scar, and Zira, and all of those older generation characters. Oh, and some new characters that not everyone knows, because some of them are my creations. There is one particular family that I'm going to be explaining in a future video that's kind of cool, but you have to kind of understand it. And it's going to be in a separate video, because that character, one of their descendants, he connects to this. So that's why it's like, it's connected, but I'm going to show it in a different video, as there's a lot of explaining to be done with it. So, humanized version. Well, anyways, so Kion's story is where I'm going to fill in later. We start with Mufasa's generation, then we go to Simba and Nala. Then from Simba and Nala, we go to Kiara's
Kayan's generation with her brother, and all of those characters, which are in the same generation, and that's a lot of characters who are all made up by me, pretty much. The only ones is like two families. But other than that, no. But the characters that are shown in that same generation, there's quite a few of them that their love interest is probably done by me. Other than Kayan's love interest, he is the only one that I did not come up with the love interest. And Kiara, her love interest, again, not done by me. So both of Simba and Nala's cubs do find love interests, and neither of them are created by me. The only ones I'm doing is the love interests, families, stories typically, is where I go up and explain it and everything there. So, the rundown of it is that once I go to Kayan's generation, at a certain point of time, and I will tell you when exactly, because I kind of know when it's going to happen. It's going to be when Kayan's either a young teenager or an adult, or a young adult, probably like as a young adult in Sims 4, is going to be when this hits, is going to be most likely when that happens. I'm still trying to figure out some of it, some of it's still hazy, and I'm still trying to figure it out in the plots and everything, but when Kayan is a I'm gonna say young adult, in human years, I'd put him as 20, so that's kind of where I'm putting him, is about 20. He will meet his love interest. She's from a royal family. She's not queen when they meet, but it's shortly after that. I would say probably a couple of months go by. At first they don't have the greatest relationship, but after a while they get a better relationship. But a couple of months go by, and then they become friends, and they fall in love. Long story short is they fall in love. She's crowned queen. Stuff happens, and I'm not going to explain it because that is going to be part of the gameplay that you guys will figure out. I will tell you, though, that some of the stuff, so good, and it's going to happen, and I'm sorry if some of the times, it's like, the love interest parents, I'm going to tell you now, is it's freaking dramatic and sad, but in all honesty, it makes the story better. So the love interest parents, they're dead. Long since, before she meets Kayan. Long before, it was probably sometime during her childhood when they ended up dying. Which is so incredibly sad, but it makes the story better. And I'm sure some of you were like, well, okay, if the parents die, who does she live with? She lives with an uncle and her grandmother. And someone else who I don't quite know how they relate, but they relate somehow. I would suspect it was a friend of probably one of her parents or whatever. And so she ended up joining them. But yeah. So yeah, that's the long story of that. And then the story that I'm going to be following is Kayan and his love interest to their kids, who they have 5 kids, 3 girls, 2 boys.
And so in the next video, I will go over a video kind of explaining kind of their personality and what I think their styles are, and kind of a little bit into what they're like, you know. And then one of them, their friends, and some of the friends, not all of the friends, but so I will explain the next generation there, and then in a totally separate video, I will explain about a separate character. He's got an interesting, a very dramatic family, which the poor guy has had a hard time too. But his parents and stuff are alive and everything, but it's just, he doesn't have the greatest ever reputation. That's the problem, and why it's so extremely complicated, and it actually does connect to the Pride Lands. Because in one part of the story, it's like his great grandparents, I believe, or something. Or it's family somehow, it's related to him. And the event connects to Scar when he was young. So that's why it's like kind of all the stories connect in this weird angle, and it's just like, oh god, this is gonna be complicated, but it'll be amazing. So yeah, and then but anyways, so yeah, that's kind of everything that goes on in the first the first 3 generations, and then from there, I'm leaving it up to you guys. So, if anybody wants, like, or if they have, like, an idea, so, like, some names or something, wait to give off names for any, like, future generations, for, like, Generation 5, until the next couple of videos, because though I do want the names, I'm gonna be very blunt about this, but I'm gonna be pretty picky about it, because I kind of have this, like, in my mind. I know exactly who they're, how they relate, kind of what their parents would think, and what they would want to name their kids and stuff. So virtually anybody can give an idea. Just give it a little bit of time. I do want names for Sims 4 baby names, but just not right now. Not until I actually get out there. I have the game. I've explained kind of what I think they would choose towards, like, I typically like to go with, like, a name that has, like, a meaning, and it typically has to have some connect to the story, so it's like, one of the characters, this is one of Kion's daughters, but one of his daughters, his name is Mala. I don't remember what language it is, but it's Indian. I know it's weird. His is African, but his daughter's is Indian name, but that's because of the mother. So that's how that worked. Is there is some of the kids that have an African name, but not all of them, as they kind of, half of the kids has got African names and the other part has more of an Indian inspired name. So yeah. And typically they kind of go in an order, so it's like the eldest has an Indian name, the second oldest has an African name, the third oldest is an Indian name, and then the youngest 2, they both have African names. So 3 of the names are Swahili. 2 of the names are Indian, and I don't remember which language. But I will also give a link down below in another video when want to do that, I will send you, when I do the video telling you you could start giving out baby name suggestions, I will give you a link down below to the site that I use to find baby names because I love it. It has all kinds of amazing languages. So it's got Swahili, it's got, you name it, you can pretty much find it. It's some really old too that are like centuries old languages, but they had good names. I was like, wow. Like that. I don't have that. I can't physically. So, bye.